Hi, I'm Savio Fernandez from the Department of Journalism. So, today we are going to listen to a story, Lamb to the Slaughter by Roald Dahl. So, in literature, we come across various kinds of stories, and it can be of suspense, it can be dramatic, it can have horror elements, it can be love stories, and much more. Not just stories, poetries, and different genres. But today, we are going to deal with a suspense story, a thriller, if you can say. This is the story, Lamb to the Slaughter. So before going to the story, let us listen about the author. Now, Roald Dahl was a British novelist, short story writer, and screenwriter. Dahl is known for the suspense he creates out of simple stories in casual tone. So, like we were talking about suspense, here the main element in his stories are suspense. He creates a suspense. Now, it can be a simple, normal plot, but what Roald Dahl says is he takes those elements and make it into a beautiful or a great thriller, or put the story in a beautiful suspense mode. So let's move on to the story now. Now let me introduce you to the characters, the main characters here, Patrick Maloney and Mary Maloney. So these are a couple. You can see the picture here. So Patrick Maloney and Mary Maloney, they are husband and wife. And so in the beginning, let me tell you, there are certain people. Now, when the author writes, author also gives a description about certain people in our society as well. They have a special aura about them. That is, they look innocent in the outside. But there are certain dark elements inside them. And we would not know such people. So inside they are a bit cunning, dark, but outside they seem to be very subtle, very neat and polite on the outside. So here we would be seeing, or we would come across a character like that as we move on to the story. Now this is Mary Maloney, her Patrick Maloney's wife, and this is a scenario in the story where Mary is waiting for her husband, Patrick. So she is a typical wife of the 1950s, and now she's spending her evening waiting for her, knitting, thinking about him or when he would arrive. It is the usual scenes in which she pours a drink for him, and then he comes in the evening. So this is the scene. And as this scenes go ahead, you see Patrick comes in, and now she's asking him what he needs, and if she needs to pour him a drink and all those things. She is a very loving wife who is ready there to provide him food and all to make him feel comfortable in the evening. See, so they are having a conversation here, and you can see how she is excited, and you can see as you read into the text how she is excited with small details about keeping his coat aside. And so all those qualities you find in Mary Maloney, a loving wife. So now Patrick, but there's something unusual today evening. Patrick seems to be very serious. He is a bit more serious today. But Mary is not, she does not realize this, but then she keeps thinking about his behavior, because she pours him her drink, and usually he sips the drink slowly and slowly, but today he just gulps it down. So again, there's a question of what is happening. She's thinking, but she's trying to avoid those thoughts. So now there is this thing happening, this scenario. Suddenly, as they are speaking, Mary feels there's something unusual about him, like I said earlier. So he just turns. There's this sudden delivery of his dialogues, which is a shocker to the audience as well. Patrick speaks to Mary Maloney. Finally, after having number of drinks, he just keeps drinking, and finally he just says that he wants to divorce her. So this is a big shocker to Mary Maloney. She is pregnant, and she is the wife who cares for him so much, who loves him the most, and he suddenly just comes out and says that he wants to divorce. He wants to divorce her. So she is terrified. She tries her best to stop him from saying all those dialogues. So in her mind, she is trying to make it as though this has not happened. So she is in disbelief. She can't accept the fact that he has said. She just gets up from her chair and just starts walking. She's still processing what has happened, because and he at the end he is trying to say that it is all very cool. It is all, you don't have to fuss it, make it a big fuss, is what he says to her. And this, she can't accept this. As she starts walking, she moves to the kitchen, and then finally when she reaches the kitchen, she just sees a particular thing, grabs it on, it is in the cabinet, she picks it up, and she, at her one side, she's not trying not to believe it. At the other side, she is so frustrated in disbelief that she picks this up, and it is a lamb. So it's this lamb was kept wrapped in a paper. She takes the paper off, and now she takes the lamb. Now the next scene, Mary Maloney simply walked up behind him, and without any pause, she swung the big frozen leg of lamb high in the air and brought it down as hard as she could on the back of his head. So this is that scene. Now what happened here? She was frustrated. She could not believe at what he had said. She's pregnant and now he's asking for a divorce. She was so dedicated to him. She just walked straight, took the lamb and just swung it onto his head. So this is the scene now. See where so he is just turning over there, and then he didn't even think about such a scenario. We can imagine Mary Maloney walking up and just bashing his head. So now she's come back now to reality, and she's like, okay, so now I killed him, I murdered him. So that was the end of Patrick there, and she says to herself, okay, now I killed him, and now what I should do is, she knows she's the wife of a detective. So Mr. Patrick himself is a police detective. So now she knows the consequences of what would happen. She knows that this would make a big toll on her and her baby. Now she thinks of her baby, and she thinks, okay, my unborn child is there, I need to see to it. And now what she does is, she tries and pretend as though nothing has happened. What she does is, she decides to go and buy some vegetables, pretend as though nothing has happened. Patrick is at home and they are planning to cook at home. So now she decides to go buy some vegetables. So now this is the scene at the grocery store. So now Mrs. Mary Maloney, she puts on her makeup, and she does rehearsal on what she has to buy at the grocery store. And she goes slowly to the grocery store and she speaks to the grocer. This is that scene where she goes to the store in order to buy potatoes for her husband. Actually, we all know that the husband is dead, but now she's trying to pretend as though nothing has happened, and she's going to him and asking for potatoes. And very nicely, she's telling the shopkeeper that Patrick needs potatoes. He found me without vegetables in the house, so we are going to cook a nice lamb. So she's talking as though Patrick is at home and I'm going to cook all these things for him. So that is the scene, and now she's all clean outside also. Now when she goes home, so before that she had already called the detectives. She had already called the other detectives who are the friends of Patrick itself. So she had already called them over the phone, and then she went to the grocery store. So now the detectives arrive here. The detectives arrive, and then they are shattered because it's their dear friend Patrick who has been murdered. And being detectives, they can't bear this loss. So now they go all around the house to look for evidences. So this is the scene where Mary sits quietly, pretending to be sad. She's crying and speaking about the loss of her husband, the murder. She's saying a big noise about all what had happened. and she says that I found him lying dead. So now this is the scenario where the detectives are searching for the evidence. Now, because we all know where is the lamb now. Now, the lamb that she used to kill him. She took the lamb and put it in the oven in order to cook it. So now the evidence is in the oven. What she does is she calls all the detectives, and they are very busy searching for the evidence. So now she calls all the detectives and say, "You guys must be tired. So all of you must be tired. Now let me just serve you this lamb." So she calls them for a drink. Also, she says that if Patrick was alive today, then he would definitely want you all to eat something. So first the detectives, they resist to it. They do not agree with her. But then later on, she convinced them, and now they have set aside for the dinner. Here you are, all good friends of dear Patrick's too, and helping to catch the man who killed him. You must be hungry by now. Why don't you eat up that lamb that's in the oven? It will be cooked just right by now. So now what does she say? This is the dialogue which she says, why, y'all must be hungry. Y'all can eat now. There's the lamb that must be cooked right now. So this, you should know that this is the lamb she used to kill her husband. And now it is ready in the oven. Y'all can eat it right now. And the detectives agree, and they all start eating the lamb. And as they eat the lamb, they are all speaking about the evidence. It must be a rod, it must be... So they are saying, if it is the rod, where is the rod? Where are the evidences? So, but it's right below them, in front of them, and it is the lamb that they are eating. So Mary Maloney very clearly and very cleverly used this to protect herself. And this is the scene where all of them, all the detectives start eating, and Mary Maloney, as if nothing has happened, she just watches them, and inside her, just like I said, how the negative sides in a person is all inside. Now she is very happily inside, enjoying the scene and knowing that she would not get caught, watching these detectives eat the evidence. And what happens at the end? And in the other room, Mary Maloney begins to giggle. So now at the other room, she starts laughing. She knows that this is the evidence and they have eaten it, and I got out of this case. So she starts laughing in the other room. So this is the story of Lamb to the Slaughter, where you have that suspense. We spoke about how certain people pretend to be innocent on the outside, but they have another side to them. And Mary Maloney is a perfect example of such a character, of such behavior also. And now as she starts giggling in the other room, she gives out the sign that she has escaped the murder. So thank you for this class.